I want to talk to you about something I think is going to affect every single person watching this channel. And most people out there have no idea it's already happening. Classic car parts are getting harder to find. And I don't mean super obscure stuff that was always hard to find. I mean parts that you've been ordering for years without thinking about it. Filters, brake components, spark plugs, common stuff. And the reason why? It's not one thing. It's several things happening at the same time. And the timing, honestly, is not great. So today I want to walk you through what's actually going on. Which specific parts are now the most trouble to find. So today, I want to walk you through what's actually going on. Which specific parts are in the most trouble right now. Most importantly, what you should be doing about it before it gets much worse. Now, I want to be upfront about something. I'm not an industry insider. I don't work for parts supplier. I'm not connected to any of these companies. What I am is a guy that's been hunting Mopar parts for a very long time, who pays attention to what is happening in a hobby, who has a background in finance that makes me look at business news in a little different light than most people. And when I started connecting the dots of what I've been seeing, a bankruptcy here, a vendor closing there, tariff headlines that sound like, they were actually about something else, I realized that this is a bigger deal than it's being treated in our community. So I wanted to share what I found, and I want to hear from you guys what you are seeing also, because we are all out there in the trenches buying parts, and you know what is happening on the ground. Drop it in the comments below. I generally want to know. Okay, let's start with the big picture, because I think that most people don't realize how consolidated the aftermarket parts industry has gotten over the last 20 years. It's not a new thing. Here's the thing. We used to have dozens of independent parts manufacturers, companies that each made their own things and competed with each other. A lot of them got bought up by larger holding companies. Private equity comes in, buys the brands, centralizes the operations, cut costs. And you see this in a lot of industries, and it's happening in the parts business too. And the problem is with that model, and I'm speaking from a finance background here, the problem is that when one of those holding companies gets into trouble, it just doesn't affect one brand. It takes down everything under the umbrella all at once. And that's exactly what has happened in September of 2025. A little company called First Brands Group filed for bankruptcy, and I did a video here on that. And I'm going to guess that the name means nothing to most of you watching, but here are some of the names that will have some meaning. Fram filters, Autolite spark plugs, Trico wipers, and Raybestos brake components. Those are all First Brands. That's the same company, and they filed for Chapter 11 last September. Tomorrow, there's still kind of a chance they're going to go away. But here is what I am saying. When a company that size has financial distress, a few things start to happen that affect you and me right now. Supply gets inconsistent. Distributors start having trouble getting consistent inventory. Prices go up because competition does go down. And the shelf at your local parts store starts to thin out. Yes. And Autolite and Raybestos, those are bread and butter parts for classic Mopars. Autolite has been the go-to spark plug for a lot of these engines for decades. Raybestos has been a reliable brake parts option. This is stuff we actually use. And that's just one company. That's not the whole picture. The second thing, it's putting pressure on parts availability. And this one hits classic car guys the harder than anyone else. It's the use of tariffs to raise prices on imported goods. Here's the thing about reproduction parts for classic cars. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot, are manufactured overseas because the economics don't support manufacturing low-volume specialty parts in the United States. The tooling cost is the same, but the production run is tiny. So manufacturers go where labor and production costs allow them to make it work. When you put broad tariffs on imported parts, those costs get passed down the chain. And for reproduction parts that are already low margin and low volume, some of those things are going to become unprofitable to produce, which means some of them will stop being produced. This is not a political statement. I'm just describing the economic reality of what happens when low volume specialty parts that are imported and that cost goes up significantly, the math changes. I want to tell you about the third thing that's happening, and this one is most personal for our community because it's not about big corporations. It's about small vendors that have been serving the classic car hobbyist for 50 years. Stick with me. So there's the third piece of the puzzle. And this one doesn't make the business headlines because, well, it's not a big corporation filing bankruptcy. It's a small business that quietly closes its doors. There was a company called Bratton's Antique Auto Parts. They were in business for almost 50 years. They were serving the antique car hobby 50 years. And not that long ago, they announced they were closing their retail operations. Now, Bratton wasn't specifically a Mopar vendor. They serve a broader classic car audience. But their closure is a signal. When a vendor has survived for 50 years in a hobby, decides that the economics don't work anymore. This tells you something about the directions where things are moving. And here's why this matters specifically for Mopar guys. Our parts ecosystem has always been fragmented. Say, first generation Mustang, early Corvette, those platforms have massive dedicated supplier bases because the collector numbers are bigger than Mopar, especially A, B, and E bodies. We have always been dependent on smaller number of specialized vendors who know our cars and stock the right stuff. When I'm looking for something specific, say the correct door weather stripping clips for a B body or the right carburetor accelerator pump or specific application, specific trim piece that was only used 1 year, like my car, I'm not going to a big box store for that. No, I'm going to a specialty vendor, the guys that actually have the stuff that fits. And those vendors are under massive pressure right now. Smaller customer base, higher sourcing cost, the NOS inventory, new old stock, original factory made parts, have been sitting in warehouses since the 60s and 70s. That stuff is running out. Generally running out. There's no new supply of NOS. Once that's gone, it's gone. And reproduction quality, look, let's be honest with you here. Reproduction quality is variable. Some of the stuff being made today is excellent. Companies like Steel Rubber have been doing good work on weather stripping and seals. Auto Metal Direct, they've been solid on sheet metal. But for some parts, specifically trim parts, certain rubber components, some electrical items, the reproduction items are limited, and they're not being made at all. Not like my 72 SE. So here's where we are actually right now. We've got a major aftermarket parts company in financial distress affecting your filters, plugs, and brake components. You've got tariffs pushing up the cost of imported reproduction parts, and you got small specialty vendors quietly reducing inventory or closing altogether. The economics are getting tight. And any of these things alone are a bump in the road. All three things happening at the same time, that's a trend. And trends in the hobby tend to get worse before they get better. Now, I know why you're actually here. You want to know specifically which parts are in the most trouble and what you should be stocking up on right now before it gets worse. Let's get into it over at the bench. Okay, let's break this down into categories because not all parts are the same situation. Now, category 1, consumables. This one is just very uncertain. This is where First Brands makes the giant problem. Autolite plugs, Fram filters, raised asbestos brakes. These are things you buy regularly. My advice is simple. Don't panic buy, but don't be at zero either. If you know what plugs your engine uses, you should know this. Keep an extra set on the shelf, not 10 sets, 1 set. And get familiar with cross references so you know what other brands will work in a pinch. Champion and GK both have cross-references for everything Autolite. Now, the same thing with brake components. If you got a specific wheel cylinder that you've been ordering for asbestos, know the part number and have an alternative vendor identified. You don't need to be a warehouse. You just need to have a backup plan. And the brake one's going to be the hard one. Category 2, rubber and weather stripping. This is where I'd actually pay the most attention if you're mid-restoration or planning on doing one. Rubber degrades over time, whether it's on the car or on the shelf. But a sealed, stored rubber seal will outlast a 40-year-old rubber seal that's already been weathering for decades. The companies that are reproducing quality weather stripping for classic Mopars right now, Steel Rubber is one of the names that comes to mind, and their quality's been consistent for decades. But what you need to know for your current project and what you'll probably need in the next 2 to 3 years, weather stripping for doors, window seals, stock up on application-specific stuff while it's available. You know, like the clips that hold the weather stripping in place on A, B, and E bodies. I'm specifically talking about the door seal clips. Those are getting hard to find in quantity. There are reproduction sets out there. Buy a couple of bags. Seriously, they are cheap, they're small, and they're the kind of thing you can reach for in the middle of a job and either have or have not. An alternative would be to 3D print them. But that's a whole nother way to go about this. Now, the next thing is category 3. Trim, emblems, and appearance pieces. On Mopars, this is the worst of the worst. This is where no situation is most critical. Original factory trim pieces for specific Mopar applications, the stuff that was only made for 1 year, like the taillights on my Charger, on one trim level, SE taillights, that generally are running out, and they're not being reproduced. My advice here, if you see a nose piece and you need it for your car and the price isn't insane, buy it. Don't wait, don't watch it, don't think there's going to be anything getting cheaper and that's going to be a lot more of them available. Now for emblems, a lot of Mopar emblems are being reproduced now, and quality is better than it used to be. But some of these more obscure stuff isn't being touched because the volume doesn't support the tooling. Know what's reproduced and what isn't before you need it. Category 4, mechanical. The things that people forget until they fail. Specifically, carburetor rebuild kits. If you're running an original Carter or Holly application, most of those kits are still available, but they're getting very, very pricey. And some more of the application-specific ones are getting harder to source. Buy the rebuild kit for your carb now. It's cheap. Put it on the shelf. You'll thank me later for this. The torque flight transmission. The 727 and 904 are still reasonably well supported. But again, this is a category to pay attention to. The gasket and seals sets are available, but some of the hard-to-find parts are getting, well, into the call-around territory rather than the order online and it shows up in 2-day territory. And the last category, and I want to mention this because this on a Mopar is everything electrical. This is one of the ones that keeps me up at night for this hobby, honestly. The original wiring harnesses for classic Mopars, some of them being reproduced, and the quality of those reproductions is actually improved a lot. But gauges, switches, specific relays, and some of the connectors, no supply is gone for most of these applications. The reproduction range is from excellent to terrible. And diagnosis of a 50-year-old electrical system was already hard enough without adding parts quality uncertainty on top. Stock up on original switches if you find them. Keep a spare voltage regulator on the shelf. If you're running original gauges and they're working, leave them alone because finding quality replacements is getting harder, not easier. You know, like these hidden headlight relays for 70 to 72 Chargers. Yeah, these things. I have a spare. Let me put this together to something you can actually use. The strategy here is not to panic and buy everything. That's not realistic and also not very smart. The strategy here is called deliberate depth, which basically means know your car, know what it needs, and don't let yourself be at zero on the parts that matter. Here's how I think about it practically. Make a parts list of your specific car, the model year specific stuff that can't be substituted, the things where you just can't walk into AutoZone and find an equivalent. Write those down. That's your priority list. Use an application on your phone, even better. Now identify critical vendors, the 2 or 3 specialty suppliers who actually stock what your car needs, and know who they are before you need something urgently. And when they have something in stock that you know you'll need, don't wait for the right time. There is no right time. Buy it when it's available. Build a consumables buffer, not hoarding, a buffer. 2 oil changes worth of filters, a set of spark plugs, a set of points if you're still using those, brake fluid if you're not using .5. Even if you're using .5, you need to have some spares. These are cheap relatively. Having them on the shelf means a weekend job stays a weekend job instead of turning into a 2 weeks parts hunt. And watch the vendors. I'm serious. The small specialty vendors in this hobby, follow them. Know who they are. Pay attention to when they make announcements. When a vendor's been around for decades, starts reducing inventory or changes their business model, that's a signal to act on it. Look, I want to be clear about something. I'm not trying to scare anybody. This isn't scaring people. The classic car hobby is not dying. People are still building, still restoring, and still driving their cars. The part situation is a real challenge, but it's manageable if you're paying attention. What I'm saying is the days of assuming the parts for your classic car is 1 click away and 2 days from your door, those days are getting very numbered in some categories. And the hobbyists who are going to come out ahead are the ones who treat their part situation as something is to be actively managed, not just reacted. So, all right, guys, that's what I got. I have been thinking about this for a while, and I wanted to get it out there because I don't see enough people talking in our community about any real specifics. But here's one thing. I know this audience, and you're out there buying parts, talking to vendors, hunting for stuff. You know things I don't know. So drop in the comments below if what you're having trouble finding right now. What parts have you gotten harder to source for your specific car? What vendors have been pretty solid lately? Because this information is generally useful to everyone watching this. And if you got a buddy with a classic car, low power muscle car, whatever, share this video. Share this video with them. This is the kind of thing that's worth knowing before you need a part and can't find it. I will see you in the next one. Oh, and if you've been watching a weather stripping kit for your car, just buy it.